Looks like it's just past 3:30 here. So this is Teresa Kimker. I'm chair of the Heritage Preservation Commission, and I welcome everyone to our March 22nd, 2021 meeting. The Heritage Preservation Commission reviews applications for projects at heritage sites or within the heritage districts. The commission also serves as an advisory body to the mayor of the city and the city council on municipal heritage preservation matters for the city of St. Paul. All of the documentation used for this meeting is available on the commission website at www.stpaul.gov/HPC, and there will not be any new documentation will be discussed or recognized during this meeting. During the meeting, please mute your microphones except when recognized by the chair to speak. And after being recognized by the chair, commissioners and staff will need to state their name before speaking, and everyone else needs to state their name and address before speaking. So that we can get a good record of what takes place during these virtual meetings. All deliberation and voting will be done by a roll call conducted by the chair, and staff will be monitoring microphones and muting participants as needed. So with that, I'm going to take a roll call of our commissioners. So I'll start with Commissioner George.
Present.
Thank you. Hello. Commissioner Bazat.
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Douglas.
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Lubke. Commissioner Wagner.
Present.
Thank you. Hello. Commissioner Peroutka.
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Nelson.
Here.
Hello. And thank you. And Commissioner McDonald.
Present.
Thank you. So we have a quorum. And are there any conflicts of interest today from any of the commissioners?
No.
Hearing none. And so then our first item on the agenda is approval of the minutes for the February 22nd HPC meeting and the March 8th Education and Outreach Committee meeting. Those minutes were included in our packets.
Hello.
I think I'll do them separately since obviously not everybody was at the Education and Outreach Committee meeting. So
Sorry,
do I
Chair.
have an approval
Point of
for,
order.
are there any substantial or major edits needed to the minutes for the February 22 HPC meeting?
Chair.
Hearing none, do I have the minutes?
Chair.
Oh, yeah.
Chair.
Pardon me. Yes, Commissioner Bazat.
Thank you. This is Commissioner Bazat. I have a comment. I don't know if it's actually a correction. There is a statement attributed to me that says something, hold on, I got to get the minutes, about the vote because it did not incorporate the general massing, rhythm, materials, and building elements of historic Irvine Park structures. And my comment was actually a little more specific than that. I was referring to the structures at that end of the district, if that makes a difference. I just wanted to point that out. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, if the minutes then are substantially true and correct, then do I have a motion for approval of those minutes in a second?
This is Commissioner Bazat. I so move.
Thank you. Second on that, please.
This is Commissioner Peroutka. I second.
Thank you. And then I'll take a roll call vote on that motion. Commissioner George, how do you vote on that motion?
Yeah.
Commissioner
Approved.
Bazat?
Yes.
Commissioner Douglas?
Yes.
I'm just going to make sure that Commissioner Lubke have you joined us? No. Okay, Commissioner Wagner.
I'll abstain since I wasn't present at those.
Okay. Commissioner Peroutka.
Approve.
Thank you. Commissioner Nelson
Yes.
and Commissioner McDonald.
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries. And then for the minutes for the March 8th Education and Outreach Committee meeting, were there any substantial edits needed on those minutes? Commissioner Bazat?
I move approval of the minutes. And in addition, I want to thank whoever wrote them. It was a far-ranging conversation, and I believe it was really well captured. Thank you.
Thank you. And a second for that motion.
Commissioner Douglas, I second.
Thank you. Well, I'll take a vote on that motion then. Commissioner George,
Yes.
Commissioner Bazat.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Douglas,
Yes.
Commissioner Wagner.
Abstain again.
Thank you. Commissioner, and that's for the same reason, correct? Commissioner Peroutka,
Yes.
Commissioner Nelson,
Yes.
and Commissioner McDonald.
I'll also abstain for not being there.
Okay. That motion passes. So then our first order, a public hearing, our first order of business is the proposed proposal to renovate the building at 156 Dale Street. Do we have a staff presentation on that?
We do. Hi, everyone. This is Allison Susan Eggers, staff of HP. So you all should have received the staff report and plans for 156 Dale Street. I just want to go through the background a little bit since this has been in front of you a few times. So you all might be familiar with this building. So on March 9th of 2020, the HPC held a public hearing to consider the demolition of this structure, and the HPC voted 7-0 to deny the demolition. And then on April 20th of 2020, the HPC held a public hearing to consider the construction of a 5-story apartment building with underground parking on Selby that proposed to maintain the existing structure at 156 Dale Street. And the HPC voted 5-2 to approve the new construction proposal with the condition that any plans for the Dale Street garage be submitted for a separate review. And then on October 19th, the HPC held a public hearing to review a proposed demolition of the garage again, and the HPC voted 6-2 to deny the demolition. And today, we have a public hearing to review the proposal to renovate the historic garage building at 156 Dale Street. In the plans that were submitted, there are two different proposals for use as either a retail or a restaurant space. While the interior modifications change depending on the use of the space, the exterior proposal is the same for either option. So therefore, it doesn't really matter for the HPC on what the interior use is for this project. So the goal of it is to amend some openings as well as do some much needed maintenance work on the exterior, as well as remove some boarded up openings on the non-primary facades, and get it into a space where it could actually be used for retail or restaurant space. So when reviewing the proposal, it met all the guidelines. As far as the windows and doors that were proposed for the front of the building, it does include the proposal to enlarge existing openings. And normally the guidelines try to steer against that. But however, the front facade of this building has been changed several times during its use, and so we're not dealing with a true historic openings anymore for this front facade. So therefore, the change in opening sizes on the primary elevation doesn't result in a loss of a true historic opening pattern. And they are making an effort to make sure that the new openings that are being enlarged match the height of the existing garage door opening that is on the right side of the front facade. And then the use of glass block is being proposed on non-primary elevations for the existing openings. And part of that is for fire rating as well as safety. And so staff recommends that based on the draft resolution and the 9 conditions that were included with that, staff recommends approval of the rehabilitation of the 156 Dale Street structure. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Allison. Are there any questions for the staff? And I'll go through the roll again. Commissioner George, any questions for staff?
No questions at this time.
Commissioner Bazat?
No questions at this time.
Commissioner Douglas?
No questions.
Commissioner McDonald?
Yes, I have a question on the south facade. There appears to be at least one arched-headed opening that's going to be modified. Could you speak to that, please?
Let me make sure I'm looking at the same thing you're looking at. On the south facade, you said?
Yes, and I think it had something to do with enlarging it for, trash removal or some such thing.
Oh, yes. So there are 2 openings on the south facade that are being enlarged to be at grade to allow for rolling doors for trash and receiving. But as far as I understood and read the plans, and we can ask the applicant as well, but my understanding was that the infill, the doors that will be put in will not be removing the arch that is above it. It is just expanding to meet grade.
So basically just cutting from the sill down, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any further questions, Commissioner McDonald?
No further questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Nelson, any questions for staff?
Yeah, I just have one. In the comments on page 2, it's about the glass block. It'll be used on non-primary elevations. So where are they going to use glass block?
So the glass block is proposed on the, what side is this? The north elevation.
Mm-hmm.
They're proposing glass block there. And part of that is because of the 1 hour rated like fire rating that they have to have on that side. And glass block is what would meet that and still be able to bring light into the interior.
Another one more comment on that. Plus, isn't that between the 2 buildings?
Correct, it is.
So
So
it won't be very
the
visible.
north elevation where the glass block is proposed is the wall that is right next to what was the Muddy Pig.
Got it. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you. Commissioner Kuroka, any questions for staff?
No questions. Thank you, Allison.
Commissioner Wagner, any questions for staff?
No questions.
Thank you. So just one more time, just to make sure, are there any questions, any further questions for staff from anyone? Okay, thank you. Hearing none, then I will ask if the applicant is present here today to make a presentation on this application. If you are, please identify yourself and give us your name and address, please.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yep.
Sylvia Frank with Carlson and Frank Architects, 524 Selby Avenue, St. Paul.
Welcome, Ms. Frank, and you and anybody else who's here to present on behalf of the applicant have a total of 15 minutes to make your presentation.
All right. I really don't have much to add to the report because the report is accurate as far as what we intend to do with the building. The preference by the owner at this point is to have the building be restaurant, but as it turns out, that may not be who ends up renting the building. We may end up with retail or restaurant or a combination of the two. This building is located on the north, east, and south property lines. So we do have a situation where we have to maintain a fire rating on that north and east side of the elevations of the building. The reason on the facade facing Dale for extending the openings that will have the shop front glazing is to bring some more light into the building, into the spaces, and also the proposed enlarged openings will match the height of the existing overhead garage door to the south. I notice in the notes, it says that only clear glass block is allowed. And I don't know at this stage of the game whether clear glass block is available in a 1 hour fire rating, but we can find out if that's the case and whether we use firelight or glass block in those 3 openings is really probably going to come down to a matter of cost. I noticed that the report does mention there will be 3 parking spaces. There will only be 2 parking spaces off the alley on the Dale Street side of the building. One is for pickup and delivery. The other one is for handicapped, and then there's a walkway for the accessible space. We really do need these overhead garage doors along the alley because if there's no space outside this building except in front to put trash, we just don't have the room. And so we'd like to have an interior trash room, and that would occupy that southeast corner of the building. Other than that, I did notice that the report mentions that tinted glass is not allowed, and we will be required to conform to the building code, which because of energy concerns may require that we have low E glass. So I don't know if what you're proposing here, if this is a requirement, we just can't be violating the building code. And in the front, what we're proposing, especially if there's restaurant use, is to develop that as a patio with planting And even if it's developed as retail, that would be developed as a patio seating area or sitting area. I guess that, unless you have other questions, that's just a little additional information about the project.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Frank. Any questions for the applicant from the commissioners? Commissioner George,
No questions at this time.
Commissioner Bazat,
I have no questions.
Commissioner Douglas. Commissioner Douglas? So it sounds like maybe Commissioner Douglas is having some technical difficulties here and has temporarily exited the meeting, perhaps. Commissioner McDonald, any questions?
I have a comment. I would like to congratulate the applicant for finally finding a way to save this building. I know it's been a long, drawn-out business, but I think they've done well. I don't see any issue with the modification to potentially original openings on the south facade, given the circumstance. I was wondering, maybe for the staff, if the issue of tinted glass, is that for energy or sun control or both? Would the staff consider awnings on the east front towards the patio there? I don't know. I don't think it would be an insurmountable issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner McDonald. Commissioner Nelson, any questions for the applicant?
I do. As Commissioner McDonald suggested, this seems like a happy outcome after a long and probably difficult process for you, the architect, and for the owner. One way of looking at this is one way that historic preservation can work well, which is requiring the developer, the owner, to think about it again and again and again and come up with a creative outcome. You don't need to agree with me. I'm interested in your reflection on this process. Is it a good, a happy outcome from your point of view?
Well, I think that it's fortunate that a buyer was found for this project, and he happens to own the adjacent parcel, which is to the north. And so I think it might have been difficult otherwise to find someone interested in taking on this project. And I think we just plain got lucky to find someone who had an interest in developing this project.
Well, one could take that as a yes, that the fact that it got drawn out in time gave time for a buyer to step forward. So thanks, that's helpful information. That's all.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Nelson. Commissioner Peroutka, any questions for the applicant?
I have no questions at this time, but we'll make comments during the next call. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Wagner. Any questions
No
for the applicant?
questions. No questions.
Okay. Well, let me run through this one more time just to make sure we've got it addressed. Commissioner George,
No questions.
Commissioner Bazat,
No questions.
Commissioner Douglas,
No questions.
And did you miss part of this, the meeting here, Commissioner Douglas? I noticed that we couldn't connect with you
Oh.
the last time we went through the roll.
Yeah. Yeah, I went through, I had to turn my car off and then I had to get my phone back on. So probably just a couple of minutes.
Okay, well, I think that when we come to voting on this, you'll need to abstain from the votes, just since you weren't present for the entire discussion or presentation.
Okay. Okay.
Commissioner McDonald,
No further questions.
Commissioner Nelson,
Nothing more.
thank you. Commissioner Perotka,
No.
thank you. And Commissioner Wagner.
No.
Thanks. Allison, did staff receive any written testimony or comments on this application?
We did not.
Okay, thank you. And we'll now accept comments from any members of the public who wish to speak to this application. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak that are present on this call? I'll just try that one more time just to make sure we're not missing anybody. Is there anybody, any members of the public that are on this call that would like to speak to this application? Okay, hearing none, we will bring the public hearing to a close, and I'll ask for a motion and a second on this application.
This is Commissioner Perotka. I move to adopt the draft resolution which approves the rehabilitation of 156 Dale Street as per the findings of fact, presented testimony, submitted documentation, and information provided in the staff report.
Thank you, Commissioner Perotka.
Chair, this is Commissioner Bazat. I second the motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Bazat. And then I will open the floor to Commissioner deliberation. And again, we'll go through this rather tedious process of going through the roll call for this discussion. So Commissioner George, do you have any thoughts, comments you want to share with us on this application?
Basically, I think they've done a nice job and I support it.
Thank you. Commissioner Bazat.
Just a couple. First of all, hi Sylvia, this is Barb Bazat. Good to hear from you.
Hello.
And a couple of things come to mind. One is that I'm absolutely delighted at this proposed resolution to rehabilitate this building. I think the design works really, really well with the existing building and retains all of the things that we talked about as reasons for not demolishing it. I also want to say I think it's fabulous that the selected architect is just a few blocks away. You know, keep it in the hood here. And I just think all around it's a great idea and I support it.
That's good to hear.
Thank you, Commissioner Bazat. Let's see, Commissioner McDonald.
Yes, the only question that is still hanging a little bit in my mind is the issue of sun control on the windows to the west.
Can I,
Is that feasible, or is it contrary to garage, if you will?
can I respond to that? I believe that the building code, as part of the energy requirements, would probably ask us to use a low E glazing, which has a very light tint in it. And if we're required to have no tint, I'd say we can't go against the building code. And if you drive down Selby, there are another number of other buildings that have been renovated that do have tinting on the windows.
This is Commissioner McDonald. In my experience, low E glass, although it may have a slight color differential, I think really doesn't rise to an issue of tinted glass. or mirrored glass or some other crazy options. I don't know how staff feels about that, but I would find it acceptable.
This is Allison Suhan Eggers. And as far as low E goes, we do see that installed. And generally, when we're talking about tinting, it is a color differentiation that you can clearly read. If the HPC would like, Commissioner McDonald, you could make a friendly amendment to propose to include the use of low E glass.
Consider the friendly amendment added.
Then you check with the maker of the motion and the seconder.
I'm fine with it. This is Commissioner Peroutka.
And Commissioner Bazat.
I'm fine with it too. I would ask staff, when you're working through all of the final decisions as posted in the resolution on which we're voting, to check in terms of code and have that conversation. And also then, if the low E is more tinted than is acceptable within current district guidelines, then perhaps have the conversation about awnings for sun control. So I don't want to put that in an amendment. That's just a comment.
Thank you, Commissioner Bazat. Any further questions or discussion, Commissioner McDonald?
No, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Nelson.
Yes, I'm going to support this. And if it becomes a restaurant, there will be a historic parallel of sorts. I think one of its incarnations soon after the end of Prohibition was as a supper club or something along those lines. That's all.
Thank you, Commissioner Nelson. Commissioner Peroutka.
Yes, thank you. And also, I want to thank Ms. Frank for her wonderful presentation. Thank you very much. You know, this address, 156 Dale, has had a wonderful relationship with St. Paul for over 100 years. And thanks to the imagination and the investment and vision of the applicant, this relationship will continue to unfold. And so I think that's just great. And I could go on and on with my own words about this amazing piece of vernacular, typical period architectural style survival. But instead, I'll combine the words of others. The great American architect, Louis Icon, and the French poet, Paul Valéry. Even a brick wants to become something. Each one relinquishes its individuality to burn in unison. So just thank you very much, and I intend to vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Peroutka. Commissioner Wagner, anything to add to this discussion?
I think it's important for all the commissioners to just express how much we're grateful for the fact that this building is not being torn down, that is being adaptively reused, that it looks like it's going to be a vibrant part of Dale Avenue and the Selby Dale neighborhood. I'm very thrilled by it. I'm looking forward to walking over there and sitting outside and hopefully, having a meal one day. So just want to express my personal thanks for the efforts of the developer, the architect, it sounds like a new owner of the property, and these efforts. And I think, as stated, time is often all that's needed for the right party to come forward and save an older building. So thanks to everyone.
Thank you, Commissioner Wagner. I'm just going to run through the roll one more time to make sure where you've got everybody's thoughts and ideas added to this discussion. Commissioner George, anything further?
No,
Thank you, Commissioner Bazat.
Surprisingly, nothing to add.
Thank you, Commissioner McDonald.
No further comments?
Commissioner Nelson,
Nothing more.
Commissioner Peroutka.
Yes, I'm wondering if the new owner might be interested in the history, the research that Commissioner Nelson has done on this building, including that period of time after Prohibition when it was a saloon, what's known as its sexy saloon days. And especially since now it seems like its sexiest days might be in front of it, or probably in front of it. Anyway, if they're interested, it might be something they might want to contact Commissioner Nelson about, or Commissioner Nelson might want to forward them that research. It was wonderful. Thank you, Commissioner Nelson.
Glad to do it.
That's
Thank you, Commissioner Peroutka. Commissioner Wagner, anything to add?
Nothing further.
Thank you. Then with that, I'll call for a vote on the motion. Commissioner George, do you vote? How do you vote?
yes,
In favor? Yes. Commissioner Bazat?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner McDonald?
Yes?
Commissioner Nelson?
Yes.
Commissioner Peroutka?
yes.
And Commissioner Wagner?
Yeah.
Then that motion is passed. And with that, we are come to the end of our business for this meeting here tonight or this afternoon. So with that, I'd call for a motion and a second for an adjournment.
Move to adjourn. Commissioner, this is Commissioner Bazat.
Thank you, Commissioner Bazat. Second on that
Commissioner
motion?
George,
please?
second.
Thank you, Commissioner George. Any opposition to that motion for adjournment? Hearing none, we are adjourned, and thank you, everybody, and thank you, Ms. Frank. And
Thank you.
I think we're all looking forward to seeing